you know, oops, sorry, we end up feeling like we're somehow failing because this lie we've been told about these little fixes that are supposed to help aren't working. I love, I think it's Eve Rodsky who says, it's a walk around the block is just not going to solve all of our problems. And it's just so true. And so I think we have to recognize that, start with this understanding that first, we've been told a lot of lies and crappy advice around our mental health. And, as a mom to three and a therapist during a pandemic, I get it. I get how hard it is to prioritize our own mental health, especially like when we've gotten this crappy advice. And, when we're starved for time, this idea that we can steal time is something that is a narrative that was handed down to us. And the truth of the matter is, we don't have to actually we are all given the same amount of time. We shouldn't feel like we're stealing time. So what do we do to kind of change this narrative? I think that's what everyone's wondering is yeah, we get this. This is hard. There's not a lot of, it feels like we're not given a lot of good advice of what to do. And I want to focus today on what are some things that we can do. And I'm going to start with a broad notion, which sounds very cliche, but I'm going to kind of narrow it down so it makes more sense. But the first thing I want to talk about is putting ourselves first. We have to start by dropping this old narrative that being selfless, which by the way, literally means being without a self, is the gold standard of motherhood. I'm going to tell a little story about this because it's something that's a story that's near and dear to my heart, but it's a time in my motherhood story where I really gave into the belief without even knowing it that I needed to abandon myself completely in order to be a good mom. So about 7 years ago, I think it was about 7 years ago, I found myself so underwater in early motherhood. I was two kids under two. I had just found out that I was pregnant, which wasn't planned. And then shortly after found out that the pregnancy wasn't viable. So I was told to go home and rest that weekend and that at some point, the miscarriage would start. Well, I did not rest. I went to a birthday party for a 2-year-old, our cousin, because I didn't want to inconvenience anyone else. I thought the kids would be sad. They were 1 and 2. They had no idea. They wouldn't have even known if we didn't go. I didn't want my husband to be bummed out about missing his family, who, by the way, he was like, let's not go. I just couldn't imagine stopping our life for me. And I started to, oh, sorry, my son came in. Jack, honey, can you just, if you're going to be in here, point in case, right? I started to have the miscarriage in the car, and because we were driving 2 hours away. And in that moment, I remember sitting there thinking this can't be happening. Something has to change. And obviously, I wish I could have said that I changed my life drastically and left and went to therapy right away and figured out my life, but it didn't happen that way. It took some time and it took some years. I did end up doing my own therapy work and learning how to find myself again. But I knew in that moment that I needed to start finding ways to honor myself. And so I want to come back to this point that we didn't create this narrative that moms need to be super mom and put everyone else before ourselves. Society and culture did. And it's really, it's really something that I think we have to recognize, that letting go of the narrative, it's not about just our own wellness. Of course it is, but it's also for the wellness of our children and their future as well. I think oftentimes do I want my daughters or my son to grow up in a world that endorses this narrative where they feel like they have to completely lose themselves once they become a mom? Of course not, right? So honoring ourselves will look different for everyone, but I think it has to start with this acknowledgement that when we're choosing to live more in line with the shoulds in life than our actual values, we get lost. And when we get lost, we can't be well for ourselves or our children or make an impact in the world. So living in line with our values instead of our fear is something that I talk a lot about as a therapist, and I think a lot about in my own life. And when we, recognize that the shoulds that we have might be very different than the shoulds that like someone else has, because that my beliefs around the kind of mom I should be were probably handed down to me by, my own family of origin or by the people I was directly around. But I think we can say that we do have this big cultural should, which is that like, especially now, that we should drop everything for our children, including our own identity. And I'm going to say this, especially in a pandemic. And I feel like this message was really hit hard for me in the past couple of years. And out of necessity, a lot of us have had to drop a lot of our things that we were taking on because we needed to care for our children. But when I decided to write a book in the middle of the pandemic, I got a lot of questions, and I still do, like around, wow, stop, I'm talking. How did you find time to, write a book in the middle of the pandemic? And I believe that was meant to be a compliment, and I think that comes from good intention. But all I hear underneath that is, who's taking care of your kids while you're off doing that cute little writing thing? Or gosh, like, that's just a vanity project. Like, so, why did you do that? Or all these assumptions that people make. And I realized that I was breaking a rule. I was breaking a should, which is you should drop that part of yourself right now. And by the way, as everyone here knows, sorry, 1 second. Go watch the rest of your show. Okay, then you need to be quiet in here, buddy. Mom is doing something right now. Okay. But like I'm doing right now, I was writing a book while also being home with the kids. And so it's just not as I think there's a lot of like either ors or shoulds in this space. And so, what I can see now is that, sorry. Jack, hold on 1 second. Let me put it on mute and see if I can get him situated. Pause 1 second. I'm sorry.
No problem at all. I was just about to suggest that you take all the time you need. So this is real life, right? Like real life, mom working, caregiving at the same time. So everything we are all used to. While we wait on Kaitlin, is everybody okay? I'm hearing some side conversations. While we wait on Kaitlin, I guess if you have not taken the mom check-in, please go ahead and do that. It's momcheck.in. I dropped the link just a few minutes ago, and I can do that again. This is just for us to see how everyone is doing within our community. It allows us to see where we can support you if needed. So please go ahead and take that. But while we're doing that, I'm also going to drop another link. So we've prepared some resources ahead of our meeting today, and it has all of the things that we're talking about today, whether it's Kate's information that Kaitlin is sharing with us, including, let me see, looks like I'm grabbing the wrong link. Copy. All right, so it's going to copy. And it has a lot of great information. So please go ahead and just click on that. It has our podcast. It has videos, some toolkits. We did publish some new toolkits in the last few weeks. And if you have not seen those, please go ahead and just grab them when you need. We do share this in the community as well. But one thing I told our team is moms don't have NFTs. There's this discussion around moms or women missing from the NFT community. And I went to a conference last week or 2 weeks ago, and I blurted out in the middle of a Web3 conversation that we have no fucking time. And that's really the honest truth. We don't have time to even like take advantage of things in front of us. So which is why you will find when you come to these meetings, I will bug you by throwing all the links at you, hoping that one or two of you grab what you need. So please don't be upset or offended when I share too much or when I overshare, because I know that even though you've seen it before, you may have not even taken the time to download what you need. All right, Kaitlin, go ahead and kick us off or continue.
I'm back. Thank you guys for understanding. This is the audience, right? So this idea that we're, I was breaking this big should and kind of writing this book in the middle of a pandemic, and I was feeling my own sort of version of mom guilt around it. But what I've recognized now is that writing the book really was, me choosing my values over my fear, and that I was choosing my value of creativity, connection, and impact over my fear of not perfectly living into this crappy narrative that the world wrote for me around motherhood. And so the point is when we let go of the shoulds, and again, this is going to look different for everyone, we make room for a life that isn't perfect by any means, but a life that really we're driving, right? We're at the wheel instead of our fear. And I think kind of the last really important piece to think about when it comes to our mental health. And again, these aren't just quick fixes or hacks. These are real things that I think we can continue to live into. And this idea of letting go of this perfect balance that we're going to strike. A friend of mine is actually writing a book called Balance is Bullshit. And I think it's brilliant. I can't tell you how many times I hear moms, and I've said it myself, come in the therapy room and tell me I'm just struggling with balance and I need to figure out how to do it all. And I get it. I feel it. And I used to do kind of all these ridiculous exercises with them, not ridiculous, but more practical. Let's map out your day. Let's figure out what's here. Let's ask, let's do this and figure out how we're going to sort of steal time, like I said. And then what I realized is that that's not helpful at all. And what I say instead is, yeah, you're struggling with balance because balance is total bullshit. It's a myth. Not to mean that you can't try to prioritize certain things in your life. But what I want us to work towards instead is, one, having the tough conversations with the people in our life who are asking us to shoulder too much of the responsibility. Again, that's going to look different to everyone depending on what their support system is. And, we can dive so much deeper into this. And I'm always a huge fan of the fair play system, the fair play method, which is Eve Rodsky's book, Fair Play. It's a really great place for us to start when it comes to helping us figure out, one, why we need to have the conversation around, with our partners, if we have a partner, around how to share the load better and how to actually implement it in our life. So have those tough conversations. And then the second thing is we want to get clear on what it is that we value right now in this moment in life, because it's going to be different than what it was that we valued 10 years ago. Or, even 2 years ago. Right. And what we value, what brings us some sense of joy. For me, it was really creativity, connection, and freedom. And so when you start with your values, you can start thinking of things that you can do. They can be little things each day to step into those a little bit. And this is where I think kind of that notion of getting interested in ourselves again, because it isn't just about finding a way to do more and balance it better. It's about living our life, right? It's about actually enjoying life and finding a way to make some more room for that. And I really do believe that that is the antidote to burnout, is getting interested in ourselves again. And then the last thing that I think is really important is giving ourselves a lot of grace. And you'll hear, therapists say this all the time, and people say this all the time, but it's because it's true. I think we assume that there's some solution, right? Or there's gotta be some way to just power through this. And what we really need is more self-compassion and more recognition that this is just really hard. And so giving yourself grace doesn't look like giving up on yourself or like, saying, oh, forget it. I can't, take on that new thing, that new creative venture this year. It's like, how can I do that imperfectly and be okay with that? How can I honor myself and sort of my obligations at the same time? And, I think, again, none of this is perfect. None of the things that I'm talking about here today are like quick fixes or hacks. But the point is we have to be willing to unlearn so many of the things that we were told about motherhood in order to have better mental health. And I think that looks like taking off that supermom cape, and living a life that leaves more room for us to be lining up with our values, the things that we care about the most, instead of our doubt, fear, and the shoulds. And lastly, what I want to say here, and my big why, I think behind talking about this and behind all the work I do and behind the book, is because I want my kids to have the freedom to do the same. And I said this earlier, like, I want them to know that they don't just have to be one thing. And how will they know that if I don't show them? So
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Thank you so much, Kaitlin. I'm nodding my head because I live and breathe fair play. I don't know if everybody in this group knows, but Eve is actually one of my best friends in life and in work. And we talk about fair play every day. We still talk about fair play today. So we are literally always texting each other about the unpaid labor of women and families, and how that continues to affect how much we earn, and and how we earn that money. And I think that a lot of what you shared when it comes to mental health, my biggest advice, honestly, to the group is for you to put yourself first. I know it sounds cliche, but if I can even help you further, put your family second. And it sounds very, very harsh. I wrote an article about it on Fast Company. It sounds like, oh my God, like, I love my kids, I love my husband. Why would you say that? Why would they come second? But the reality is, there is no way you can be the best person that you want to be for them, anyways, if you continue to put yourself last on the list. That is even if you're on the list at all. I know I used to be in the same boat where I was working, in a Fortune 100 company, and I was working myself to the bones. I mean, I was staying up to 3, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. sometimes, just walking around the clock. I didn't have time for my family. I didn't have time for myself. And it wears on you. I mean, it makes you resentful of just about everything, right? You resent your work. You may start to have problems in your marriage or your relationship. You may, feel disconnected from your kids. And that's all because, you've prioritized something else over your mental well-being, over how you show up for yourself and also for your family, right? So I always say, put yourself, number one on the list. The other thing is, stop doing it all. I think, Kaitlin mentioned that is literally my jam. Is, there is no way you can't do it all, especially if you're a professional woman. And for everyone in this room who are professional women, we're all professional women. If you're making enough income to outsource something, and don't tell Eve I said this, because Eve hates outsourcing. But I've told Eve, there is just way too much work in the household for 2 people that work. There is way too much. There is cleaning, there is cooking, there is dropping off, pick up, finances, taxes. I mean, there are so many things that are happening that when you and your spouse or your partner, if you have one, you still can't get through all of it. So prioritizing which one is important to you, and then see which one of those you can outsource, is going to be super, super important. And we have a toolkit around outsourcing. It's in the link that I shared. So please take a look at it. It sounds very basic, but I've seen so many women spend a lot of time on something they can outsource for $35. And I'm like, why are you doing this to yourself? Right? If you're making, I'm just going to throw it out there, $75,000 a year, 100, you can outsource something for 35. So part of this is really having real and honest conversations with ourselves, right? Because these are not things that we can have on Instagram, because somebody's going to say, oh my God, this is just a privileged point of view. But the reality is women are out earning men in 22 states. Women are making a lot of good money, and we need to make smart decisions, right? If you want to keep making money, or if you want to keep, spending quality time with your partner, with your kids, we need to make smart decisions. There's no other way about it. So I'm going to pause and just let's go around the room. I think since we're a small group, let's just all stay together. Let's go around the room. What are some of the challenges that you're facing that contributes to your mental, that maybe reduces your mental well-being, and what are the things that you think you can do about it based on everything that Kaitlin has shared today? So I'll start off by saying I think my biggest issue is really just doing too much. My calendar is always booked, okay? Bam, 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 bam. And a lot of time I can't even get to the things that I really want to do for myself because I already filled it up with other people. So that's my biggest thing. And so I need to take my own lessons and try to put myself back on the list. Anybody else want to share?
I'm happy to just kind of jump in on that. Blessing is when I said me too, it's like as I'm learning that I talk about this stuff and I teach it, and then I am oftentimes not applying it to my own life. And that's hard. And I think to say, because we all want to pretend like we're like, Zen, and we're doing all the things we say we do, but I don't have the time. I am still struggling with putting myself first and, making sure that I do the things I need to do to be whole. So the struggle is real.
It is real. Anybody else?
I'll jump in. Kaitlin, 100% hear you. Same. I tell others. But for me, I think my biggest struggle has been that since I own my own business, that it's like there's so much to do, and it's like me not working on my business because I need to take the car in to the mechanic yesterday. Instead, it just feels like, okay, do I make it up later? That it's just, I feel like it's different when I was in the corporate world of where you kind of can just be like, oh, I need time off or I need this, but having your own business, it's thrown me for a loop of like, well, there's so much that you can be doing and it's all on you.
Well, tell me about that one. I was just telling my husband yesterday, I'm like, I am working twice as hard as an entrepreneur versus, working in corporate America. And when I worked in corporate America, I worked. Okay.
Yes.
I worked to the point where I literally got, I think it was a double promotion within a couple of months in a row. Like that was how hard I worked. And to believe that I can actually double, the amount of hours or the amount of efforts. Yeah. Mind blown. Anybody else?
I think right now what we've been struggling with is like this sickness cycle. Like we can't, as soon as I get back into a good place of things, I feel like I'm starting to get into a routine and dabble in something that's more like creative on the side, like boom, baby's sick again, cycles through the whole house and we're back at square one again.
That would do it. Usually that would do it. I had a mom that, said they've been sick. It's just been a cycle for the entire family. It's like one person drops and the next person and the next person. So that can definitely throw you off, right? What always helps me when there's just a lot of, everybody just falling all over, falling sick. I just try to not fall sick, right? Because and I know it's hard, right? I'm just like, okay, I gotta try. That way, at least, I can at least stand up and help a child. So my husband and I know, I don't know if you guys do this, but when one of us is sick or the kids are sick, we try so hard. So we step up. We're like sanitizing our hands. And when he's sick, I just say, go sleep on the couch because we know that one of us has to be healthy. But I know how hard it is, especially with young kids. You can't get away with it sometimes. So anybody else want to share some of their challenges, mental challenges lately?
I'll
Can
join
you
in.
hear me?
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, yeah. Who is talking? Ronka, is that you or?
Yeah, I was
Go
going
ahead.
to chime in.
Oh yeah, go ahead, and then we'll come to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, one of the things that I'm trying to do is outsource and get help, but I'm also fit right now with much help is hindrance and how much is actually helping. You know, I recently read something that said too much help becomes hindrance, and really trying to make sure that I'm spending the right kind of time with my children and not just having my summer nanny do the pickup and do all the, do the stuff. So I think that's kind of where I'm struggling right now.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. And I feel I'm gonna tell you, for those people who don't know, I have 4 kids, and I'm currently in Lagos, Nigeria, where there's an abundance of childcare for me. And so you start to fall into that. The nanny's the one serving breakfast, and and maybe lunch, and maybe dinner, and you don't even interface in that aspect. And so what I always tell myself is, just pick, 1 or 2 things, right? Pick 1 or 2 things. So for me, it's really waking up early because I do drop off. My husband does pick up. So it's waking up early, spending time with the kids, even if I did not make the breakfast, right? I can actually sit down on the dining and, encourage them to eat, chat about, what are they looking forward to. So that's time spent there. And then, of course, on the way to school, we pray. So we have sort of our own little routine. And same thing, my husband picks them up, and, there's a whole bunch of ways to bond there as well. So I think, pick those things that are important to you, and pick those times that are important to you to spend with them. So if it's before school or after school or both, and that way the guilt sort of reduces, and it allows you to be fully present with them, because you've made it, it's sort of, you're giving yourself that permission, and it's much more intentional, right? It makes it much worthwhile for you and even also for them. So thanks for sharing. Desiree, do you want to go next?
Yes, thank you. No, everything said, I relate to it, and I really appreciate. I think it is that doing it all super mom mentality that does get, kind of stuck, is only because like you see friends who, especially Mother's Day came around, and the ones that like, oh, she does everything. It's not necessarily for me, but I see other moms being praised for that selfless mentality, and I'm like, and I was already like, I don't like this. Like they're just perpetuating the narrative. But still, but that's what their value and their price. That makes sense. I think I kind of want. I know I do want to do. I want to have my career. I want to have my children in their activities and everything too. And it is the struggle to kind of, I think for me it's like I physically can't do it. I've burnt out so much. I think that's forced me to let that go. And then in turn, I see, well, I feel very like guilty or sad about it. But then in the end, it's like, it wasn't as bad that I let that idea go. Like, you know what? Like laundry's just not going to be done like this week. Or, you know what? I miss this, work, maybe a work opportunity, but you know what? Another will come around. And I think for me, it is that sense of losing sort of, I think mentioned, I thought about authenticity. Like kind of you're filling other people's expectations of you, and it's like, wait a second, what is mine? And I did have this conversation with a friend last week about it, like, hey, like let's do things that and I think because of the pandemic, it was sort of serving like, work needs this, home needs this. So I think I am feeling like in this season where even for Mother's Day, there was a fitness class for moms event happening. I signed up, told my husband, hey, I need to go to this. This is my Mother's Day treat. I'm going. And
Yeah,
I feel like that could be a regular thing. Like maybe not every Saturday, but at least maybe putting it on the calendar as a start. So that's sort of where like, the physical burnout has forced me to kind of look at it. But it's hard because then I'm so tired all the time, then trying to figure it out. So that's sort of the challenge right now, like where I want to be.
Oh, I love that. I think definitely forcing ourselves, like burnout, we do that to you, right? And it's good that you're able to recognize that, and able to tell yourself that, okay, I need to slow down. It's not the end of the world, right? If laundry doesn't get done, or if the house is not, in tip-top shape, because what is more important is that you are actually getting the support that you need, emotionally and mentally. I know I've been there. I've been there, girl, where there's just so much you feel like you can't find time. But then what happens, right? Maybe you fall sick and then you actually have time. So anybody else want to chime in? I know a few people are off camera as well, so feel free.
Hi, Blessing. Can I share, Dahlia?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I think my greatest mental challenge is being the favorite parent. So everything mom has to get. And mom is home working. So mom, I want to eat. Mom, I don't want to eat. Mommy, you need to feed me. Sometimes it feels like I'm going crazy. Like, guys, your dad is here. Go to him. But that never happens. And I think it's driving me crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so my answer to that is, go into your room and lock the door. Let them figure out with your dad. I always just say leave them with the dads, and we always, so one of the things that I found, and I'm gonna tell this story very quickly. I always give the kids a bath. And all four of them, well, now my oldest one doesn't need, but the three, I would give them a bath. And then one day I just decided, you know what? I make the dinner and then I have to go and then, give them a bath. Like, this is too much work. So I decided I wasn't going to give them a bath anymore. And so what happens? My husband picks up the bath, thank God for Eve. So my husband is, he picks up the bath and, he's a good man. He picks up his own fair share. But I just said, I can't do back to back. So go ahead and start doing the bath. And so now he's doing the bath. And what I found was that this guy is good. This guy, I get the kids and I'm just like, you're done, soap and water, fine, just get out. But he takes his time. He's like washing, their nails and, he's like, and then the following week, I saw Amazon delivery and he has like new bathtub mat. He has like squeaky toys and he even ordered those foldable buckets. So I was just like, wait, what is going on? And by the third week, they had a song that we all, you would sing with the kids and they were learning songs together. And that just blew me away. Because as women, we've been taught a lie, like Kaitlin said, that we're the ones that are good at this things, right? That you're the mom, you're the best one for this job. But that opened my eyes to the fact that men are actually capable and it is actually taken away from their worth or their humanity when we don't allow them to experience that, right? Because now my child can actually grow up and if you ask him or her, I hope that he will say that I remember my dad giving me a bath and teaching me all these different songs, right? And just imagine him missing out on that kind of humanity, that kind of memory, because he has chosen not to be a part of this. Or because society kept telling me that it's okay, that I should be the present parent, I should be the one answering to them, and he has a free pass. So I want to challenge you, especially if your partner is not as, if you feel like your partner is not as helpful, I think, just challenge them to pick one thing, right? One thing that they really enjoy, and let them do it, all the time. So when I ask for help, let's assume you're asking for help. It shouldn't be help. Ask often, right? So that it sticks. So when they pick that one thing, let it stick. You want to give it back? Go ahead. That's your thing now, right? You guys figure it out and let them do the conception, the planning, and the execution. Not just the bath, but they're the one buying the bath toys, the bathtub. My husband will go into the bathtub. I never used to do this. He will go in the bathtub and wash the bathtub 15 or 30 minutes before it's actually bath time because he's a germaphobe. So it's like, and he starts from the head to the bottom, I'm like just all over the place, right? He's like, oh no, we can't take germs, all the way from the bottom of the feet to the head. So these are things that I learned that, whoa, I'm not really good at this stuff, right? I thought I was good, but I'm not. So give your partner, your spouse, the opportunity to lift the load off of your shoulders from time to time or forever.
I love that. Blessing, can I jump into really quick? I was going to add, I love everything you said. And the one point too is, and if your partner isn't, like, is starting to kind of push back or maybe gives you some dirty looks about you taking time for yourself, or there's just like passive aggressive stuff going on. I say this all the time. Your only job is to not respond to it. Because if you've been clear on what it is that you were going to do, you've set this up before, say it's like a Saturday morning, I'm going to have 2 hours to myself. And you get the like, okay, but when are you going to be back? Like, don't, our job is to leave anyway, right? Like you're saying, let them do it. And so often as women, we tend to take on that, like, okay, well, he's not, I don't know if he's going to like this. And so I better, make it shorter or whatever. Our job is to keep doing what we said we were going to do and not respond to the passive aggressive comments or looks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else want to share before we wrap it up? All right. Chioma shared with me already. So she shared a text message with me. So thank you, Chioma. I'm going to catch up with you after. It's a little bit confidential, so we'll chat about that offline. And that's part of the thing too. So if anything comes to mind, or you're going, this is not just a once a month thing, right? So if you are struggling with anything at any point, feel free to reach out to me or Dahlia at motherhonestly.com. My email is blessing@motherhonestly.com. So if somebody from my team wants to drop that, I think everybody has my email because I have sent a few emails out. And also on the portal, just reach out to me there as well. Because a lot of times things will pop up, right? Whether it's discrimination at work or something, very personal, maybe with a partner or with a friend that is bothering you, please feel free to reach out to me. Because I have a lot of experience with these things. And not only that, I have a lot of people that have a lot of experience with these things. So I can always, send you in the right direction if you need that. And of course, if you want to just, chat with any one of our motherboard experts as well, that's also available. But thank you all so much for joining us today. I think we're going to wrap early, so that's great. But please take some time. Let me share my screen one more time because I want to make sure everyone has everything they need. Let me know if you can see my screen, but please take your time to, go over some of the documents that we have available. Outsourcing to work, household management, that's a big one, especially for a lot of us that have so many things going on the home front, or if your partner is not shouldering as much as they should, something to do with them. We also have stage education. If you're, you have kids between 0 to 5 or 0 to 10, actually, how do you find the right care for them or the right education? How do you find the care for your children, nanny, babysitter, in-home childcare, whatever that, how do you arrive at that solution? And then, of course, the much bigger picture of childcare management. Please, we will create these for every month so that you can always, toggle back if you need anything. All the podcast episodes that we have for this season is on there as well. And there's a lot of information as well on the portal. So if there's anything you need that you can't see around managing burnout or mental health, please feel free to reach out to myself or Dahlia. I'm gonna pause again for any questions before we end our time here together. Awesome. Thank you, Kaitlin, for joining us today. Really appreciate you. And if anybody from the team or from the group wants to host or be a part of our next motherhood conversation, let us know. We love to hear from everyone in the team. It's a team effort. So Kaitlin is a member as well, and she's like, I want to do this, and we're excited to to be able to do this together with you, Kaitlin. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.